All right, let's see the headlines now. It's time for us to see what the newspapers are saying. And we'll begin with the first news. I take the first few, and then the Kemi, of course, will take the others. First news says Muslim tickets, more troubles for APC over Shetima. Muslim ticket, more troubles for APC over Shetima. That's what, because Nigerians are reacting to this in so many ways. That's first news. A leadership newspaper says, Muslim ticket, you have nothing to fear. APC assures Christians. You have nothing to fear. APC assures Christians. That's what the leadership newspaper has. The Nation newspaper says, governors, Muslim ticket not against Christians. Muslim ticket not against Christians. That's what governors are saying on the front page of the Nation newspaper. All right, Daily Trust is next now, and he says how Babachir's panel recommended Shetima, 10 others to Tinubu. That's the Daily Trust. That's for VP slots, how Babachir, his panel recommended Shetima, 10 others to Tinubu. All right, these are revelations coming out now. Recall that Babachir Lawal was one of those who was against the nomination of the VP slot for the APC. All right, that's a Daily Trust. Kemi.
Right, Mike, I have News Direct. That's the first of the papers we will be looking out from my end. And the big story there is on Saturday's election in Osun State. It's 2 days to the election, and political parties are reportedly hiring thugs seeking spiritual backing as well. That's according to News Direct. Let's go to Blueprints, bringing us a follow-up on the lingering ASU strike. Now they have replied, President Buhari, on the now 5-month-old strike, saying with our varsities as glorified secondary schools, enough cannot be enough. This Nigeria has a spotlight on what it calls the plunging economy, inflation hitting 18.51%, escalating food, energy prices responsible. That's from a report carried out by this Nigeria. National economy, understandably focusing on the economy ahead of the 2023 election, saying next president must understand in-depth workings of economy. This according to a group of experts. Finally, with me, Business Day, telcos to factories, Nigeria's diesel-run economy threatened. Mike.
All right. From there, let's go to the international scene now. The Guardian is what we're seeing from the UK, and it said pressure on Truss as Tory rivals steel match in leadership battle. Okay, that's from the UK. All right. From there, let's go to the Financial Times. It says U.S. inflation piles pressure on Fed for big rate increase. All right, that's what Financial Times has. And talking about the United States, the Saudi Arabia, Saudi Gazette says Biden renews commitment for two-state solution in the Middle East. All right, recall that the president, United States president, is paying a visit to the Middle East, and is one of his first, I think his first official visit. He's visiting Israel and some other countries. All right, that's what we have there so far. Now, this Muslim ticket that is being debated is still a hot thing among Nigerians.
The significant thing here was the revelation today in the Daily Trust.
Yes.
That Babashir Lawal has acted with double standards. That he has been speaking with from both sides of his mouth. And there was a committee, unlike in the PDP, where there was a committee set up to determine the vice presidential candidate, in which of the 17,
it was narrowed to 2.
It was narrowed to 2, and 14 voted for
Governor Wike,
governor of Rivers State, and 3 voted for Okowa of Delta State. So the candidate decided to poo-poo the report and picked his own. In this case, Daily Trust has revealed that there was actually a panel headed by Bashir Lawal, who made a lot of noise yesterday talking about an insurrection in the party and that a Christian insurrection in the party, which is a contradiction. In this condition, it's the idea of a Christian insurrection. It's a contradiction in itself. In the party, because the Bible says, follow peace with all men and holiness. You have to follow, when you want to do everything, do it in the language of peace, not in the language of rebellion. Anyway, before then it turned out that there were other members in the committee. According to the report, just give me a second, let me find the members of the committee.
I know Grace Bent, Senator Grace
Bent was there, Malam Noor Ribadu, Senator Abu Ibrahim, Senator Bent, Senator Ishaku Elisha Abo. Was it not the other one?
Who also pulled out of the campaign council.
Adamawa North Senatorial.
There seems to be a concentration of
Kashim Ibrahim Imam, and Representative Abiola Faleke, Representative Musa Sarkin Ada, among others. So one of the members of the committee said after the measures of Tinubu as the flag bearer of the APC, a subcommittee was constituted to provide guidance on the selection of a running mate and director general of the campaign team. And when they arrived, when they reached a conclusion, on top of that list was Kashim Shettima. That is what the candidate picked. See? So it was not as if there was no process. This committee was made up of both Christians and Muslims.
Well,
so what Bashir is he accused of is Pharisaic morality.
And another way of looking at it again is that a bit of some more history would help our discussions be well more objective now, because the feedback from many of the people who have, given their stout opposition to the emergence of Asiwaju Tinubu and Kashim Shettima, the feedback appears to be like we have never walked the terrains before, or that the times when we walked the terrains before, for example, or most paramount, the 93 national election was much different than what we're having now. We saw, they said it was a large bulk of Nigerians who didn't want the military to stay on in power anymore. And because of that must have explained the reason why Nigerians didn't seem to mind. And as someone else within the APC, interestingly, also says that we all saw how he called it a Pyrrhic victory, saying we all saw how it all ended. It was something that Nigerians didn't even get to see the fruits of the victory accorded to MKO Abiola. But of course, that is a debate that we may still continue to hear from. But what interested me was, if we go back to the 1979 election, we saw, of course, that saw the emergence of Shehu Shagari winning, or he had a Christian in the person of Alex Ekweme. But Awolowo it was a Christian that he wielded. Umeade. Even the other opponent, Chief Azikiwe, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and he also had a middle belt and who came with him. In down south, Olabisi Onabanjo and Samuel Sholuade in Ogun State. In Lagos State here, we had a Muslim. The Ogun State example were Christians, both Christians. In Irelu Obada, that's Osun State, Christian, Olagunsoye Ilola and Irelu Obada, both Christians. Yeah. And I think Jakonde too had a Muslim. It was a Muslim. Okay.
That's in the Second Republic.
In the Second Republic in Lagos. So, what beats me about it is that...
You've forgotten that Buhari and Ndiago were Fulani.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Gowon was number one. Number two was Wayne. Number three was Azan Kassina. Number four was an old boy of my school, an honorable man, David Ejo, the chief of Army Staff.
Yes.
If at one time became number 2 in the country. So we have that. The question is, when people say those times are not these times, are we better to dispute the beauty of our past rather than go back to the beauty of our
past? Exactly.
When the Americans were fighting for independence, at one stage, they started recalling the period of the Greeks. where they had a flowering of democracy. It was not a perfect time. The Greek democracy was not perfect. They had slaves. They had a macho system. People like Plato were talking about a system in which you had to suppress the weak and things like that. No, but democracy in Greek was so beautiful. The Americans said we have to go back to that time.
Exactly.
So that, and then people like Jefferson, people like Adams, when they were writing articles, they were adopting Greek names to show that that was a beautiful time to go back to. Americans from time to time recall the beauty of their past in order to project into the future. We are impugning the beauty of our past and swimming in the blood-soaked water of sharks. Which is
Mike, I know you're also interested. Sam was mentioning after the show yesterday that I don't think we have time now to also talk about, what you read about in the UK, the race to replace Boris Johnson.
Yes, beautiful point.
Beautiful point.
Fascinating. But there were much more contenders, but now we see it's been narrowed down. It's narrowed down to 3.
It's narrowing down.
Even Kemi at a point was also a contender, but as we've seen, it's a game of numbers.
Yes.
And
it's a game of numbers, but it's interesting that a lady who was from a stock of slaves during the heyday of British slave trade and slavery, was even contending for that position, had some sizable votes. And secondly, the top runner is not a blue-blooded, blue-eyed fellow. It's an Indian, Rishi Sunak, who was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, like our own central bank, except that, unlike our own central bank chief, who was insisting on being in the position and running at the same time, this man is resigned and is running. Nobody's asking whether he's a Muslim or he's a Christian, whether he's a Buddhist. People are saying this man has a great story. It is the personality they are looking at. They're not looking at whether the man comes
and what he promises to deliver. And what he promises to deliver.
And what he promises to deliver.
For him.
And they're looking at his character.
No, of course.
Yes. And his results, because he's been tested, and to think that he's the man to beat now.
Yeah. He's talking about cutting taxes from the first day.
Crucial points.
These are the ideologies. These are the issues.
Interestingly, these people are conservatives.
They are. That's the irony of it.
All within the party.
All right. I wish we had
just like Disraeli.
Yes, exactly.
Disraeli, a very Jewish person, was a conservative when he became prime minister of Great Britain.
All right.
So much happening around the world.
So much. But it's really interesting. And for those who sit down to decide and think about what we are doing here, should also reflect what's going on around the world. What can we learn? Because we often make references to, we fashion our democracy after some other countries around the world. We pick from here, and so on. So the point there is that how do we learn from there to ensure that we advance what we have?
Of course, theirs too isn't perfect. But,
exactly.
But we can always
they are ahead of us, so we're learning. Let's learn from them.
Lessons.
Right.